Hello again. This is Satan's Trilogy, Book 1. I am the author and the narrator. This is the beginning of Chapter 5, and it will be reading 38. Hope you enjoy it. "Kill him, kill him, kill him," the crowd chanted. For nearly 2 hours, the crowd had yelled and hollered at the evening's events. Mary had joined along, participating in the circus of activities, losing focus on everything but the arena before her. "Kill him, kill him, kill him," the crowd was growing louder in their demand. The stadium began to echo the crowd's voice, and the floor was vibrating from the loudness. Mary was breathing heavily. She could hardly catch her breath. This was her one and only passion, professional wrestling. The excitement of the evening and her uncontrolled enthusiasm had easily overcome her. An attractive woman in her late 30s with an oval face, high cheekbones, and a strong chin, Mary was both attractive and confident looking. Auburn hair still showing some youthful shine, and her jade green eyes were Mary's strongest features. Wishing to keep her beauty in check, she would wear her hair straight and pulled to the back of her head in a flared ponytail. Mary used the smallest amount of cosmetics, a concealer for the occasional blemish, a light amount of foundation, and very pale red lipstick. Not wanting to stand out, Mary preferred to blend into the crowd, choosing to be unnoticed and unsolicited by men, and free from social commitments. Seldom, if ever, did Mary attend public events, but her love for professional wrestling would occasionally force her out of the apartment and into the city's arena. The fans were screaming as they had been all night. The wrestling match was only a few minutes old, yet the crowd knew the challenger would soon be defeated. No one could defeat the Phoenix. He had defended the heavyweight championship belt for nearly a year. This was longer than anyone in the history of the W.O.W. All challengers were either defeated or escaped the ring before the match could end. This night would be no exception. The Phoenix was in full control of the match. Mary could feel her heart pounding heavily against her chest. Tall, muscular men competing for championship belts while beating each other into submission. This excited Mary. The continuous action of the night's events had slowly drawn Mary into a state of heightened excitement. Raising her left hand up to feel the pounding of her heart, Mary quickly realized that her name tag was still pinned to her nurse's uniform. This would be only a moment's distraction, and without looking, she discreetly removed the pin and placed it into the pocket on her sweater. Mary practiced being a very private person. She understood the importance of not sharing unnecessary information with strangers. Somehow, in her rush and anticipation to arrive at the arena, she had failed to remove her name tag. The pin read, "St. Peter's Nursing Home, Mary M." That was far more information than she would ever share with strangers. Mary was well aware of how the smallest bit of information could be used to leverage an illegal con. Her childhood had been an education in swindles and cheats, taught by her parents. Mary hated her childhood. She could not understand how her parents could take the life savings of good people through deceptive and illegal means, showing no guilt or remorse for their actions. At 17, Mary helped swindle a young mother out of her meager savings. Mary's mother, Anne, would tell her that only greedy people found themselves cheated in life, so it was their own fault. Nevertheless, Mary saw the young mother as more desperate than greedy, and could not help but feel guilt for her actions and contempt for the lifestyle her parents were living. When Mary turned 18 years old, she left home, leaving a short note for her parents, having decided to join the army. Mary excelled in everything she set her mind to. The military provided the education that allowed Mary to become a nurse. Mary saw the opportunity that the military offered and took advantage of them all. Promotions came quickly, and her education followed suit. As a nurse and officer, Mary had joined the Special Operations Forces, where she accepted many missions overseas. After receiving the Purple Heart, Mary decided to accept an early retirement with full benefits. Having served her country for nearly 18 years, Mary had decided that it was time to take on other challenges in a less demanding environment. She had no regrets, having received a free education and specialized training in combat. She was certain that the military had been the right path for her. Now, having settled into civilian life, Mary had found the peace she longed for. Tonight was special. Mary loved watching the Phoenix, and she loved watching him destroy his opponents. Having followed his career for nearly 6 years, she would sacrifice nearly anything to be present when he wrestled. To Mary, this was the greatest show on earth. She did not mind that some of the theatrics were staged, and some of the wrestlers exaggerated their behaviors. Mary loved the show and everything surrounding it. Sights, sounds, and smells. It all came together for a great night's entertainment. From her childhood, Mary understood that not everything appears real is real, but sometimes what appears impossible is possible. Mary did not bother trying to separate the real from the impossible. She just sat back and enjoyed the show. Mary knew that within minutes the Phoenix would defeat the challenger. Concentrating with all her mind on the arena below, Mary watched her champion. At 6'6" he had a perfect physique, nearly 300 pounds of hard muscle. With his tan skin, shoulder-length, sandy hair, and blue eyes, he could easily have been a model, but instead, and to Mary's delight, he chose professional wrestling. The Phoenix had a solid, square jaw that reminded Mary of a soldier she had known while in Afghanistan. Climbing to the top of the ropes at the corner of the ring, the Phoenix launched himself into the air. His massive body of 6.5 feet, at nearly 300 pounds of solid muscle, sailed effortlessly through the air until striking his opponent, smashing him to the mat. Jumping off the challenger, the Phoenix moved around the ring, raising his hands repeatedly, coaxing the audience for approval, and the audience responded accordingly. Cheers and yells of support, all for the Phoenix, filled the air. The challenger was slowly trying to get up. His strength was gone, his body was weak, and getting to his feet seemed nearly impossible. All the while, the Phoenix moved about the ring, enjoying the moment, but keeping a close eye on his opponent. Mary was focusing intently on her hero. Suddenly, she felt a cold, wetness going down her back. "What the hell?" Mary blurted out as she turned around. Having lost her concentration on the ring activities, she now focused on what had happened behind her. A large man, swinging his cup of beer around, had spilled some of his beer onto the back of Mary's neck. Probably in his early 50s, the man had been drinking most of the night. At 6 feet tall, with a protruding yet solid gut, he looked rather threatening. The man had some obvious muscle, which Mary chose to ignore. His face was unkempt, unshaven, and his chin glistened with beer that had been spilled from his glass. Obviously intoxicated, he was waving his glass about while watching the match. Mary looked him straight in the eye, trying to hold back her anger. She focused on the stranger's actions and quietly said, "Mister, if I get one more drop of your drink on me, I'll have you ushered out of here." For a moment he ignored her, and then he turned his head towards Mary. With his glazed eyes, he tried to focus on Mary's face. He studied her for a moment. Annoyed with Mary's threat, he loudly replied, "Listen, bitch, no one's going to take me anywhere." With that being said, he started to tell Mary to turn around and reach for her shoulder with his right hand to turn her about. Mary grabbed his hand, pulled his fingers backwards and down across the back of her seat. The man quickly went to his knees, spilling the rest of his beer on himself. Mary leveraged his arm towards the floor, forcing him to fall against the seat on his right. In a begging voice, he cried, "You're breaking my fingers." Mary leaned towards his face and whispered into his ear, "Try to touch me again, and you'll spend the night in a hospital." Looking at his beer-soaked pants, Mary said, "Now that you've finished your beer, I suggest you stop drinking before you do something that you'll regret later." Mary released his hand and quickly turned around to catch up on the action at center ring. This distraction had only taken a few seconds, and it seemed that no one in the immediate area had paid any attention to the short incident. Everyone was focused on the Phoenix. "Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!" The crowd was relentless in their demand. Mary attempted to regain her focus on the match as the crowd was chanting. Everyone was anticipating the Phoenix to make his signature move, ending the match. He was circling a man lying on the center of the ring. The opponent was pleading for mercy. Phoenix moved to a corner of the ring and started to climb the ropes. At that moment, the challenger jumped to his feet and pulled the Phoenix off the ropes. Falling backwards, the Phoenix was momentarily stunned when he hit the mat. He quickly held one arm up to the challenger, gesturing to hold off any continued attack. The challenger dropped on top of the Phoenix, landing his forearm across the chest of the Phoenix. Grabbing his leg, the challenger tried to gain some advantage to pin his opponent. Raising his shoulder off the mat, Phoenix avoided the pin. Then, with a sudden surge of strength and willpower, the Phoenix rolled backwards over his own head, reversing the opponent's grasp and pinning him. The referee had been on his knees for the last few moments, counted 3 on the mat, then waved his hand. The match was over, the opponent had been pinned, and the Phoenix remained the champion. This was not the exciting conclusion Mary had anticipated, but her champion had won, and that was what mattered. Some wins were easier than others, and this match was easily won. The challenger was not a professional wrestler, but a local fan of professional wrestling. In every city that the Road Organization of Wrestlers appeared in, the evening would end with an unknown appearing in the ring to challenge the W.O.W. heavyweight champion. Tonight was no exception. The challenger called himself Bearman. He had a beard several inches long, and his body was unusually hairy. This somewhat hid the fact that the challenger was very physically fit. In fact, no one dare enter the ring to wrestle in a W.O.W. challenge match without being extremely fit. Over the years, many men were injured thinking themselves worthy of wrestling with professionals. Some challengers would spend weeks recovering from their injuries. Emotional damage ran deep too. Seldom were they ever seen in the ring again. To Mary's knowledge, no one had ever died from their injuries, but few were foolish enough to return to the ring, inviting a second beating. Mary eagerly waited to hear the ringmaster, Michael Wade, announce the winner. Stepping into the ring and perfectly groomed with his thick black hair, nicely tanned skin, the audience welcomed him with loud approval. Master Wade, as he was usually referred to, had announced the W.O.W. events for 11 years of its existence. Master Wade was wearing a classic black double-breasted tuxedo and looking professional enough to be the master of ceremonies of any formal awards program. He held the microphone to his mouth and began to speak with his masculine bass voice. "Ladies and gentlemen," pausing for a moment as a crowd sent out a roar of excitement, "tonight, the Phoenix has defeated the night's unknown challenger, Bearman, in 11 minutes and 6 seconds. Stopping again to allow the crowd to react, Master Wade waited a few moments and continued, "The Phoenix remains a heavyweight champion of the World Organization of Wrestlers." The crowd erupted in approval, and cheers were heard from all 4 corners of the stadium. Master Wade lowered the microphone and stood back just a step as the stadium continued to erupt in excitement. The audience screamed in approval as the Phoenix circled the ring, raising his arms in victory. The crowd continued to scream and was near frenzy with excitement as the Phoenix ran about the ring, encouraging the ongoing approval of his fans. He ran to each side of the ring repeatedly, raising both of his arms, motioning everyone to make more noise. During the announcement and all of the excitement, the challenger had left the ring unobserved, and by now was being checked by a doctor. All challengers signed a contract agreeing to a physical examination before and after any challenge match. The exam would be handled by the W.O.W. physician, Dr. Simon Starr. Simon was a retired doctor that had accepted a nice monetary package from the W.O.W. for providing his services. The doctor used his stature in the W.O.W. to attract beautiful women. He was often photographed and published in the tabloids, having dinner with some of the W.O.W. most attractive ring girls. With thinning hair and a short man's stature, he basked in the attention given him by his W.O.W. affiliation. The doctor was often called to the ring to examine a bleeding or unconscious wrestler. Simon's wardrobe was unlimited. He chose to wear exclusively black suits, his black shirts and black ties. The audience knew that if Simon entered the ring, it was because someone was badly hurt. The Phoenix approached the ringmaster and confidently took the microphone. The audience became even louder, and the Phoenix gave them a couple of minutes to quiet down. With one hand holding the microphone and the other hand held high in a fist of victory, the Phoenix started to speak. Thank you, thank you. The crowd continued to cheer, but eventually quieted down as the Phoenix started to speak. Tonight, I fought a brave man. The crowd did some booing and some laughing, but quickly quieted down. The Phoenix continued. Few men can step into the W.O.W. ring and walk away without the help of others. The bear is such a man. The crowd made some noise, not necessarily of approval, but acknowledgement. The Phoenix held his hand up to quiet the crowd and then continued. Bear Man could possibly have a future someday in professional wrestling. He must continue to study and practice the art and sport of professional wrestling. Then, and only then, will we possibly see the Bear Man again in a W.W. wrestling match. And I believe I'll stop there. That was reading 38. Hope you enjoyed it. See you again soon. Take care.